Hello, what's up, dear YouTube viewers? Over the years, the FIFA World Cup has been hosted in many countries, large and small, Christian and Muslim, and in almost all continents where people live in except for Oceania. However, unfortunately, there are still many places where the World Cup has either not been hosted at all or has been hosted a long time ago. In this video, I would like to share with you the top 10 places where I would like for a World Cup to be hosted. Now, I would like to make you aware that this is just my personal wish, and it does not have any connections to the actual criteria that FIFA sets forward. It's just something that I would like to happen for different reasons. From personal wish to simply because it has never happened before. Now, I also do want to make clear with you that even though I numbered the positions from 10 to 1, of course I want all of those places to host the World Cup. And the difference between 10th place and first place is not very big. But I just numbered it so that it would be easier to understand. Okay, let's get started. So at 10th place, I have got the Nordic countries, Sweden, Denmark and Norway. Denmark and Norway have never hosted the World Cup before. Sweden has, but it was a very long time ago. I think we should host another World Cup in those countries because fans from those countries have really impressive traditions. For example, Norwegians with their row celebrations. I know I'm probably not doing it right. I haven't fully learned it yet, but I'm trying. And also right now, soccer is on the rise in those countries. Norway has sensationally eliminated Brazil out of the World Cup. Sweden has a super generation of players with Alexander Isak and Victor Gyökeres. And Denmark has also had some of their own important players, even though they didn't make it to a World Cup. I feel like if we host a World Cup in those countries, it could really make soccer more popular in those countries up to an extent where in the future one of them could win the World Cup. And it would also allow us to see the fan traditions in those countries. So I would really like to see that happen. Okay, at number 9, I put Ethiopia and Eritrea. Now, Ethiopia is one of the largest countries in Africa and has one of the largest populations, which on paper is supposed to be the key ingredients for a country to be successful in soccer. But unfortunately with Ethiopia, it didn't work that way. The country never qualified for a World Cup and even in Africa has not been so successful lately. I think that if we host the World Cup in Ethiopia, it could give them an important boost and help develop soccer in this country up to an extent where they could at least qualify for AFCON regularly and maybe potentially be the new force of African football. Also, I think it would be a good idea to host at least a couple of matches in Eritrea, because those countries were once at war with each other and a joint World Cup could be a nice symbol of reconciliation. I understand that right now Eritrea does not have a lot of World Cup stadiums ready, but I'm not speaking about right now, I'm speaking about hypothetically. And I think it would be a good idea to host at least a couple of matches in Eritrea. I have communicated with a couple people from that country and I know that soccer is popular there too. At number 8, I got South America, and more specifically Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru. The World Cup has been hosted in South America before, but never in those countries. And I think those countries deserve to host at least one World Cup. In Ecuador, soccer has been on the rise recently, with the super generation led by Pacho and Capria. Colombia has also had a very good run this year, making it all the way to the round of 16. And Peru has not been so good at soccer recently, but they still have some important soccer traditions. So I think that those countries deserve to host the World Cup, and it could make soccer more popular in those countries. It would also be interesting to see the fan traditions of those countries. Okay, at number 7 I got Algeria, Egypt, and Tunisia. North African teams win the AFCON a lot of times, and even at the World Cup stage they have been looking impressive recently. Or not super impressive, but good compared to what they have achieved in the past. Egypt has made it to the round of 16 of the World Cup for the first time in their history. Algeria has got out of the group stage, and even though they got eliminated by Switzerland, they have a lot of good players such as Ibrahim Maza, and it would be really interesting to see if soccer can develop its traditions in this country. Tunisia has not been as good recently, but they have their own soccer traditions too. So I'm really interested to see the World Cup hosted in those countries, to see the traditions of the local fans, and to see if soccer can have a higher impact in those countries. I'm really hopeful that those countries can get better at soccer. The World Cup has never before been hosted in North Africa, and although now Morocco is expected to become the first host from that region, not a lot of matches are expected to be played there. Most matches will be played in Spain and Portugal. So I think North Africa deserves another chance, and Egypt, Algeria, and Tunisia deserve a chance. Okay, at number 6 I have got Indonesia and Malaysia. FIFA is focused on expanding the geography of the World Cup hosts, and hosting it in Indonesia and Malaysia would be a good idea because before the World Cup has never been hosted in Southeastern Asia. Indonesia has a large population and a lot of large cities, all of whom like soccer. But unfortunately the national team has not qualified for the World Cup in a long time. So I'm hopeful that the soccer tournament in Indonesia can boost the development of soccer. Malaysia doesn't have as much large cities, but they are one of the most stable countries in Asia, and they have got their own soccer fan base. So it would be interesting to see the World Cup hosted in those countries to expand the geography of the country hosted, and also to see how local fans would welcome other soccer fans. Okay, now at number 5 I got Turkey and Iran. The Turks are really crazy about soccer. Just look at the derby between Fenerbahce and Galatasaray, which is one of the best in the whole world. And Turkey has a very large population of over 80 million and a lot of large cities. So I think it would be interesting to finally give Turkey at least one chance to host the World Cup. I know Turkey is expected to host the Euro soon. I think that if the Euro goes successful, we can give Turkey a chance to host the World Cup. Now about Iran. Iran also has a population of over 90 million and many large cities such as Tehran, Isfahan, and Shiraz. So I think it would be interesting to see for Iran to host the World Cup. Such the Iranian national soccer team has not been the best form lately. They always qualified for the World Cup, but they never get out of the group stage. So I am hopeful that if the World Cup is hosted in Iran, it could lead to a development of soccer in the country. I think that because Qatar and Saudi Arabia have got the chance to host the World Cup, Iran should also get a chance. Okay, at number 4, I have gone for China and India. China is one of the most populated countries on earth, and so is India. However, unfortunately, soccer is not popular in those countries, which I'm not trying to change the traditions of those countries. If they like other sports more than soccer, it's their choice. But I still think that soccer should be developed in those countries up to an extent where those teams qualify for the World Cup more often. Both of those countries have a lot of large cities and a large population. I would also love for the World Cup to be hosted in those countries because they have a lot of interesting festivals, and it would be interesting to see how they would be added together with the soccer events. For example, they have the Holika festival where they throw paint at each other, and I think it would be interesting to see how soccer fans would participate in the Holika. Sorry, correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I think that's how it is pronounced. So I think India and China should get a chance to host the World Cup because they have everything it takes. A large population and a lot of large cities. Okay, at number 3, I gone for Australia and New Zealand. Oceania is the only continent to never host a World Cup, except for, of course, Antarctica. But in Antarctica, there is not much people, and Oceania is the only continent where there is a lot of people, but they haven't hosted the World Cup. And I think hosting it in Australia and New Zealand would allow to expand the geography of soccer and to make soccer more popular in those countries. Yes, I know, Australia is technically part of Asia in soccer terms, but geographically they are part of Oceania, so I think that would still count. They have successfully hosted the female World Cup before, and I think they could also host the male World Cup. Okay, at number 2, I have gone for a joint bid of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. Soccer was very popular in the Soviet Union, and the national football team of the Soviet Union always reached at least the quarterfinals, and once even the semifinals. Except for, of course, a couple of occasions where they didn't get out of the group stage. But of course, the results of the Soviet Union were still much better than the results of the post-Soviet republics modern day. And as someone who is from Ukraine, it makes me upset. I think a joint host, be it of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, could make soccer more popular in those countries and could make sure the local teams qualify for the World Cup more often. Then, I think those countries have a lot of soccer fans and a lot of traditions, and this World Cup could really be one of the best in history, with the country showing off their food, traditions, fan chants, and other things. Russia has already hosted the World Cup in 2018 before, Ukraine has hosted the Euro 2012, and Belarus has never hosted a soccer competition, but they have hosted a couple of competitions in other sports. So I think at least a couple of games could be conducted in Belarus. The only problem with that is that the political relations between those countries right now is not ideal, softly speaking. And if we are speaking in more clear terms, it's quite bad. But I still think that in the hypothetical future, it would be possible to host a World Cup in those countries. Because politicians come and go, but countries stay on the map. In the past, we have seen examples of countries that were once at war with each other host a joint World Cup bid. So I think Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus could do that too. And at number one, I have gone with the United States. Yes, I know, the United States has already hosted the World Cup in 2026. But there are speculations that they might do it again in 2038. Because in 2030 the World Cup will be hosted in Africa, South America, and Europe, so all of those continents are out. And so all of those continents are out of the 2038 race. Such FIFA has a rule that the World Cup must be hosted in different continents, and if a country in a certain continent hosts the World Cup, no other country from that continent can host it for the next two cycles, and Asia will host it in 2034, so they are also out. The only reliable options are Oceania and North America, and Oceania doesn't include Australia, and no other country in that region has good enough stadiums to host the World Cup by themselves. So the only continent that is possible is North America. And I would really like for the United States to host the World Cup in 2038 for a couple of reasons. First of all, in the 2026 World Cup, I only got a chance to go to one match. And I'm hopeful that in 2038, I will get a chance to go to more matches because the prices will be cheaper. I want to go to Ukraine or Russia match if either of them qualify. Of course, I hope that both qualify, but that doesn't seem possible right now, considering the forms that Ukraine and Russia are in, and that they have never qualified together. So if at least one qualifies, that would be great. Also, I'm hopeful to go to one USA match and one matches of my future spouse's home country. Right now, I'm not married yet. I'm hopeful to be married by 2038, and because America is a country of immigrants, I think it could easily end up that my future spouse will be from, for example, Mexico or Colombia or somewhere else. And if that happened, I would wanna go to the game of my spouse's home country if they qualify. I'm I would wanna go to a game of my future wife's home country if they qualify. I would also like to go to one round of 32 game and one round of 16 game and maybe potentially a couple of more matches. Yes, I know that sounds like a lot, but I'm hopeful that one of those countries can qualify for the round of 32 or round of 16, and that would satisfy both of my criterias to make it a round of 32 game, but also a game of one of those countries that I want to go to. Another reason why I think the USA should get another chance to host the World Cup is because this time around many cities were left out of the World Cup, such as Chicago, San Antonio, Washington DC. I'm really hopeful that the USA gets another chance. Now, I would want the USA to host the World Cup without Mexico and Canada next time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not prejudiced against any of those countries, but I think the USA should get a chance to hold the World Cup alone because Mexico has already had the chance to host the World Cup alone twice, and USA has got a chance only once. So I think the USA should also have another chance to host it alone. And also, soccer is already the most popular sport in Mexico anyway, when in the USA it's still far less popular than sports like baseball or American football. So I think if the USA hosts it alone again, soccer could become more popular in the USA. About Canada, they have, of course, never hosted the World Cup alone, but I don't think they will have enough stadiums to host it alone. So I'm really hopeful that in 2038, the World Cup could be hosted in the USA with the same cities that got a chance now also getting a chance, but also more cities that didn't get a chance this time could get a chance. Okay, that is my top 10. Now, before I say goodbye to you guys, I do wanna clarify one thing. The World Cup hostage can only happen in the World Cup being hosted can only happen. I said the wrong word. The World Cup being hosted in those countries can only occur under the circumstance that they allow all teams to stay in their country and don't make any teams leave their country after their game is over, like it happened to Iran this time around. I think that what Trump did to the Iranian national football team was absolutely unethical and not a good reputation of the USA as a host country. Because in FIFA rules it clearly said that the host must guarantee all countries equal treatment. Nowhere does it say all countries except for those whose government you don't like. Nowhere it say all countries whose government you like. Nowhere it said most countries, it says all countries. So I think what Trump did to the Iranian national football team was absolutely bad. People can have different opinions about the people in power in Iran, but the rules say that sport is outside of politics. And whether you like the people in power in Iran or not, that doesn't change the fact that the football players of Iran deserve equal treatment as all the other football players who were at the 2026 World Cup. Especially considering that not all of them support the people in power in Iran. I think that in order for the World Cup to be hosted in the US next time, as well as in any countries I listed, those countries must guarantee that all teams will be treated equally. That is something I will talk about in another video. I will make called what I liked and disliked about the World Cup, which I will post after the World Cup is over. So stay tuned for that. But right now I just wanna say that I think next time you should make sure that this does not happen. Okay, those are my top 10. If you like this video, give it a thumb up. If you dislike it, give it a thumb down. Leave comment, subscribe, and stay updated for more videos. Bye guys, have a good day.